beauties, thank you so much for making it beautifully flawed. And it's your girl RB back with another video for you. Now this look, honey, is all about the beach, all about the ocean. We're locked in, we're locked down, so why not take you to something that is as amazing as the beach? Now, before I should even continue, I want you guys to hit my girl legendary Shay up. She's the wig maker. She deals with skincare, and I'm sure that is something that is very, 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 very important. Now her link will be in my bio, so if you want to head on over to her page, which I'm asking you to do, so go ahead and just hit her up, subscribe, tell her that, hey, Ruth Ann, or rather Beautifully Flawed, sent you. Now, the basis of the day is, if you've not yet subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and do so. Hit that subscription down below, and of course, hit that notification bell so you can be notified of every and all that I do moving forward. Don't, of course, forget to leave me a like, a comment, and if you can, go ahead and share this video. Now, honey, let's not hold you up any further or any longer. Go straight on in, and of course, enjoy yourselves. So thanks again, loves, until we meet again. So today is going to be a full-on face, like it's all about the eyes, and so I'll be doing my brows on camera, and these are literally what I'm going to be using to make it happen. Okay, so I'll be taking y'all's in just a tad bit. Oh, I think I need to, you guys seeing that? Yeah. So all it is that you get your soap, your bar soap. Yeah, I think I need to make it a bit more. And then just do this. I only moisturize my skin underneath it. So you see that? Like, and if you see where it's getting too dried, mind me. See where it's getting too dried? Go ahead and just damp it again. I just my finger in some water. Just damp it again. Okay, so So we're going to be repeating the process on the other eye. So brows. Alright, so the reason I'm combing the hairs in the direction that I'm combing it in, it's because of how your hair naturally grows, and you want to basically comb some up in the front to give you that natural look. Alright, so showing you my pencil, I decided to use a black pencil. I never use a black pencil, but because I'm not necessarily filling in my brows, I just wanted an intense outline, and that's what I'm doing. You don't have to do this step. It's a step that you can actually forget about. It's optional if you want to see, but I like a solid outline, and so I'm outlining the bottom of the brow, again using that black pencil. Alright, so after doing so, I'm gonna go on top, just at the arch, and then the tail, and that's all I need. I basically do this for a more natural looking brow. I did not want it to look too outlined. Alright, you don't have to make your brows as wide as mine, but I tend to basically start my outline at the very end of my brow here, and so that's why mine, this wide. So of course, going on in with my clean color concealer brush, I'll just, as normal, just be cleaning up under the brow. Alright, so I am using here the shade, what is the shade that I use? Oh yeah, I use, as usual, the shade Toffee. Alright, and just getting that brow nicely cleaned up
And of course, afterwards I will be blending it out using my Deluxe Crease brush by Real Techniques. So here guys, I'm using the Absolute New York's Radiant Cover Concealer, same shade, medium neutral, and I'm just using this to be my base for my eyeshadow. Blending it out as usual with no other than my Deluxe Crease brush from the company Real Techniques. Again, I will always say this. This is one of my favorite brushes of all times. I've tried a few and I'm stuck on this particular brand. And let me also remind you that it is super affordable. So you know, if you can't afford the Morphe or the Sigmas or any other brushes that really are costly, you can actually try the Real Techniques. Now I will be doing a second layer because personally I don't think this gives you a complete coverage. It's not a full coverage concealer, and so I have to go back in because I did not want to have my lids, the shade or the darkness of my lids peeking through. And guys, you want to make sure that you're giving yourself a smooth surface, a smooth canvas to work with, and so you want to make sure that you are blending out the base or your concealer. I promise you it is worth doing so. Okay, so we are jumping on into the eyeshadow. Now I'm using the Do Colors brush. I think I did a video where I was talking to you guys about it. Now I really love this set because of the price. It's affordable and the quality thus far has not yet failed. Now I'm using this brush to lay down the black eyeshadow in the area that I want, because it's not a full-on cut crease. Alright, it's basically a half, if you should say, but it's not full. So I'm using the black to really intensify when I cut that crease. It should pop out at you more. So I'm using a brush that is somewhat bigger than the first brush, and I'm using that dark blue, and the palette so far that I've used is the James Charles times Morphe palette. So I'm just using that to blend out or blend them together to give me sort of like a dark blue shade. I don't think I have a dark blue shade, and even if I did, I think this works much better. The payoff or the intensity that I was looking for, it would have paid off using these two shadows together. As always, I will be going back and forth between both colors. You don't want to lose anything. In this instance as well, I want to make sure it is properly blended into each other. I want to make sure the colors are standing, but I want to make sure they are really blended. So guys, to get that perfect blend, nothing is wrong with going back and forth into the different shades that you're using. Now I'm using this shade from a Juvia's palette, and I'm just using a flat shaded brush to apply it on on top. So this is going to be pretty much the second to last shade. So just getting it on there, and of course afterwards I will be using a small brush to blend this out. Alright, so I'll just be buffing and blending the last shade out. So as I said, just going back and forth into the shades. So I'm using the middle shade to make sure I don't lose anything, and I'm going to be using that brush. That brush has, for now, it has no product on there, so I'm just using it to blend out. So now, from the James Charles palette, I'm using the white as the very last shade. Now the white I'm using so I can actually diffuse the top of that blue shade. So instead of me putting down a lighter blue, I don't really want to go too much color under the arch. So I'm using the white to basically do for me what a light shade would, minus the extra colors there. And the white will also soften the edges of that blue that I laid down. Alright, now so to carve that crease out, I'm using Garnier's Micellar Water and of course my cotton swab, and I'm just taking my time here to get rid of any, well, to basically carve out and to also provide for myself a clean canvas. Now the reason I had to remove everything from my lid, there was some fallout from the black and also the first blue that I used, and because of the shade I'll be laying on my lid, I wanted to make sure I did not have any contribution from any of the other shades laying on my lid. Alright, so in this instance you want to make sure that you remove what's already there to lay down on your lid a clean surface. Alright, so of course I'm just outlining, or rather here I'm carrying out and filling in with concealer my brows. Now guys, I did not do this the right way. Make sure that you're closing your eyes, because as you can see my eyes is definitely not closed, and you want to close your eyes to get a better access to your lid, and this will also help you to cut your crease much better. Alright, so I'm just stamping out to get as straight of a line as I can, and then of course you want to go in and then you can fill in the areas that are not yet filled in. Alright, so going back into the James Charles palette now, to get you an intense cut or an intense looking cut crease, you can go back into the last shade or go back into a dark shade and outline above the cut crease. This is going to make that cut crease pop, like it is going to give it that sharp look. So even if it was a bit messy, that's fine. This method will always ensure that you have for yourself a sharp cut crease. Okay, of course, using the Nomad palette, I'm using that nude there, and I'm just patting it onto my lid. All right, so though the concealer beneath is dried or it won't move, I'm still patting it there, and I'm going to also make sure that I move as close to the cut crease as possible, because doing so will actually make it look extra sharp, like cut suit sharp. Yeah. So the shade, the very first set of eyeshadows that we used, we are literally following in that order. Now we are carving out for ourselves a liner, a shadow liner, and the first color that I'll be using is the black. The black will give me that intensity that I'm looking for. The intensity the blue will not provide me. Alright, so I'm just using that, and let me just say this brush set is it makes life so much easier for me, and I'm able to do like much more things that I would have been able to do with my previous brush sets. Alright, so I'm just gonna be, as I said, repeating the shades, and as I go along, I'll be taking it just a tad bit higher, and I'll be blending back and forth after this to make sure that I don't lose the shades and that they are also, you know, really nicely blended. So back in with that black, and after I go back in with that black, I'm gonna go back in with that blue. So you want to continue to do this until you get the desired look or the desired blend that you're going for. Now with that last shade, I'm just laying it. I'm laying it on top. It's going to get onto your previous shades that you laid down, not a problem, because eventually you will be, as I said, going back and forth into your previous shades to make sure that you don't lose your shades if you don't want to, and as well to make sure that you get a really nice color payoff and a beautiful blend above all else. Okay, so to sharpen that liner, that shadow liner, going in with the micellar water and that cotton swab, and I'm just using it to clean up the edges of that shadow. Now I'm using an NYX roll on eyeshadow, and I'm just using it to just add a little extra to the lid, just to give it some more character. Alright, you don't have to do this, you can actually skip this step, but I wanted a little bit of glitter, not too much, but a little bit of something. Alright, so this part was super excited, and I wasn't going to film, but because I've never showed this method on camera before, I decided that I needed to show you guys this. So I wanted to have that illuminating look. I'm not going to tell you that you need to buy an illuminator or any other illuminated products that gives you that glow. I just use my regular bronzer, and I just laid it in the areas that I wanted to look, you know, bright and nice. And of course, on top of that, I'm just going over it with my usual Superstay, Maybeline Superstay in the shades mixed 370 and the shade 375. Also, if you've been following me, you would have known that I'm always using toffee to blend as my highlights. All right, and of course I'm using always a damp sponge or blender to get my concealer blended out. And you want to make sure you take your time. It's looking a bit fast here, but this is me speeding up the video a bit. All right, so and no worries, guys. When you're doing your highlights and contouring, it will look crazy. It will look as if I had to show you a run. It will look as if it's just going to not look good. Don't worry, as long as you take your time and you blend it out, it will all come together. Now, this step I always say, once you are finished applying your concealer, you want to go over the very edges, or I basically go on top if it's looking too bright, but make sure the edges, if nowhere else, you want to go over the edges to make sure the edges of your concealer is properly blended out. And of course, I'm just pressing everything in. Now I'm using the Sasha and I'm blowing off any excess Buttercup, and I'm pressing the product in. I'll repeat this again, I do not bake, it's not for me, I don't like how it looks, and I already have a full coverage under eye. Alright, so I'm just pressing the product into my skin to get it nice, airbrushed, smoothly blended. Now again, I'm basically a traditionalist because these are always the steps that I'm using. I use my brush after I apply my Buttercup, and I always just go back in and get some of that off and to push the rest into the skin. Now of course, because I'm a traditionalist, it's always the same thing. My Black Radiance powdered contour, and I mix both of those shades. Alright, so I'm just going to be going around the areas that I want to contour, and I promise you it does pay off. I like powder contour. I'll always say that. I promise you guys a cream contour one of these fine days, but for now it's about the powder. Like, guys, I'm so tired. Like, it's like 18 hours after how much o'clock, and I'm tired, and maybe that's the reason I keep on stuttering or getting it wrong, because I've had to delete a few of these voice notes, voiceovers. So just see with me a bit. Alright, so I'm using always my angled shader brush, and I love to use this for my nose. I don't even think I use this for any other purpose. I don't even think I use it for my eyeshadow. I just use it solely for that purpose. You can always use your brushes for whatever reasons. Alright, so I'm going into, of course, the James Charles, and I'm using those 3 shades next to the black, and I'm just mixing them to give me my own version of a bronzer or a blush. I don't use blush, by the way, so I'm always using this. If it's finished, I'll just go ahead and use an eyeshadow that is similar to the shade. So just repeating the shades that I used. All right, and I will be connecting them, and I will be connecting the lower liner to my bottom, to the bottom or underneath my eyes. So the dark, the black, the dark blue, the lighter blue, just like so. And as you guys can see, we do have a guest in the house. Say hi. We do have a guest in the house. We got to do business, and so I had to have him in hand. Now I'm just applying. I'm using here the Wet n Wild highlighter, but I used some of that bronze from my face, and then I mixed it. All right, I'm always mixing the highlighters to get the perfect shade that I'm looking for. I don't think there's a perfect shade sometimes by itself, and so you have to mix it sometimes, and that's exactly what I'm doing here, mixing these shades together. Now this is where I say RIP to my Jordana retractable pen rather. I'll try to see if I can get more because I really like it, but yeah. I said goodbye. I told you that in the last video. I had to say goodbye. I used all of it. So of course, I did say in the last video, and I'm not sure if you guys saw it, that the reason I darken the sides of my lips, it gives you a natural looking pout. Alright, so it makes you look as if you're pouting, and you know pouting, we always do so whenever we're taking our pictures, so why not just give the illusion that you're always pouting? And this is an illusion that can be achieved by just filling in the very sides of your lips. Just use used some matte pink in the middle, and now I'm just going over with some pink gloss. And this, guys, was the look that we had. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and thanks so much again, guys.